Welcome to CTV's Capital Dispatch with Rachel Aiello.
Well, did I call it or did I call it? The ArriveCan application and the Auditor General support into it blew up here on the Hill this week. That's one of three things that happened in Ottawa that I want to chat about. So on Monday, Karen Hogan, the Auditor General, released this damning report into the government's handling of the ArriveCan application, really slamming CBSA, the border agency, for its contracting practices, management of this app. Hogan said, essentially in her time as an Auditor General, she's never seen financial record keeping this bad. What started out as around a $2 million contract ballooned to $60 million or so. And that's her best guess because she still can't get all of the answers about how much money was spent working on this traveler contact application created during the pandemic, has evolved in the years since. Stemming from this, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, took the Prime Minister to task in the House of Commons, asking, you probably heard this, WTF, where's the funds? This has now become a merch option for them, but really challenging them to get more answers. Hogan said she was more surprised about what she was not able to find than what she did, really affirming a lot of the reporting that has been happening for months around some of the contracting practices connected to this firm, GC Strategies, and noting as well that there are elements of this entire affair that have been referred to the RCMP. Poilievre pushing the RCMP now to expand their probe. Latest on this is the government has kind of given us a sense of the scale and the scope and the size and the cost of these contracts that specifically GC Strategies has received. Headline coming out of that, they're no longer eligible to participate in federal government tenders. So this file is far from closed, but certainly as we saw and as I anticipated late last week, if you're watching the last video, this was going to blow up, and it definitely did. The other two files that I wanted to flag, first, there is a rebrand of the carbon tax rebate. So previously, the climate action incentive is now the Canada Carbon Rebate. Pretty sure that's it. This comes amid an increased scrutiny of this government program after the fall saw the government roll out a series of carve-outs and then promised there was going to be no more carbon tax carve-outs. Important to note here, this rebrand of the program is only to the name of it. The substance, the content, the way the pollution price is collected from Canadians and then returned to them, the amount they get, none of that has changed. It's just the name. Seamus and some other ministers came out to announce this week, suggesting that they were aware that Canadians weren't understanding what this climate action incentive payment was when it landed in their bank accounts. So now they are working with financial institutions to get the name kind of put in. So when you hit into your bank account, see that direct deposit, you're going to see that it's the Canada Carbon Rebate or refund rebate. And then you'll know that's what it's for. Obviously, this prompted some questions about whether this was, as the Taxpayers Association said, lipstick on a pig. Others suggested this is a good move because even those who cover the climate file didn't really know what this climate action incentive was. So now they're hoping Canadians will understand what this rebate is, really absorb it as a rebate from the government, specifically on climate change. We'll see if this does enough to turn the tides. On another financial matter, this week, NATO reminded Canada that it is still far from meeting its 2% of GDP spending on defense. Bill Blair, the defense minister, went on the defensive, telling people this week that Canada is going to work towards that target. Of course, no timeline on when we're going to be spending that, billions of dollars more on our military that NATO wants us to. Connected to this, Poilievre came out this week and said that he would cut international aid funding in an effort to try to meet that NATO target. So those are kind of the big three topics dominating attention here on the Hill this week.
Let me just say something else. Because I think it's very easy to say, oh, rebrand, that's going to save the world. It isn't, but you listen to people. The climate action incentive is 8 years old, right, as a name. And look, if we can speak the language that people speak, because people say the words carbon, they say the words rebate, right? And if we can speak that language, that's important so people understand what's going on here. Look, I'd be the first to say some of this, and I've said it before, is kind of counterintuitive. But the bottom line is that the Canada Carbon Rebate, Canada Carbon Rebate is revenue neutral. It does help 8 out of 10 families more. They get more, right? And whenever we're talking about axe the tax, very catchy slogan. Certainly taken off in the House of Commons during question period. But can we have a serious conversation about how this is going to affect people's budgets every month at home? Because that $1,200 a month for a family of 4 in Newfoundland and Labrador, or $600 for a single senior, they are budgeting that money. That is money they are budgeting in their household budget per month.
So that was Seamus O'Regan, the Labour Minister, speaking about this rebranded carbon tax rebate. And the reason I picked this as my quote of the week was because the message here is a clear strategy change for the Liberals. You know, wording verbatim aside, what he's signaling here is going forward, the Liberals are going to be framing this as a benefit check that Canadians get and try to make them realize that in Poilievre's plan to axe the tax, he would also be axing the benefit. So Seamus in this press conference was speaking about how Canadians really need to understand, and some of them do appreciate, that this is money in their accounts that they are banking on. They have become used to getting these rebate checks, and it's money that helps make ends meet. And they need to realize that the axe the tax proposal from the opposition leader, if he becomes PM, would mean these benefit checks stop rolling into their accounts. I think it's an interesting strategy. Obviously, we'll have to see how it works, but this is clearly their attempt to maintain the carbon tax, their price on pollution plan, and try to find new ways to sell it to Canadians. So what am I watching next week? Well, it's a break week in the House of Commons, so Dispatch is going to take a 1-week pause. But when they come back, I'm really going to be watching for where the government goes with this legislative agenda. Since they came back last month, they've really been focused on advancing bills that had kind of been left to languish over the Christmas holidays, and they haven't really introduced new legislation. And so what I'm going to be watching for is it time for them to start tabling new bills? You know, they've promised online harms legislation. They also have this massive outstanding commitment to the NDP on pharmacare. What we heard on that file this week is it's not going well. The NDP have been pretty absolute that if they don't get what they're asking for in this legislation, deadline to table that is March 1st, then they are ready to pull out of the deal. And this could all unfold in quite a dramatic way because this deadline is March 1st. We would be expecting the next federal budget likely in the weeks to follow. And so if the Liberals lose their dance partner, their supply and confidence agreement partner ahead of that budget is going to be a key confidence vote. And if they haven't secured the support of another party, well, the minority Liberals don't have enough to maintain the confidence of the House on their own. Now, there's a lot of steps between now and then, but I just think this is really going to be, when they come back a week from now, everyone's focus. Where's the pharmacare bill? How is it going? Is it in a place that both sides are happy with and ready to be tabled?